I'm never going to avoid it. It's following me. Massive.
Parts of the ceiling begin to melt off.
I begin walking through a room and arrive at a stall selling salmon. I speak and I say,
Hello. Did you know that you have massive green eyes?
Neon lights blind the dilated pupils. The sun is hot here in Rio.
Here we are in Rio, searching for a place to stay.
Stay away. Your eyes.
Meet as we clink glasses. Llamas, a celebration of
Tony.
Tony.
Tony, I'm stood under a lamppost.
Tony stood under a lamppost.
Tony, I'm stood under a lamppost.
Tony.
I'm stood under a lamppost.
Stood under a lamppost, Tony.
Tony, I'm stood
Tony.
under a lamppost.
Tony stood under a lamppost, Tony.
Tony,
I'm
stood
Tony.
under a lamppost.
We're in Rio! We are in Rio.
Eyes looking at me, all worth 50 pence.
Bird food costs 50 pence.
I'm watching the crowds of people.
Sharing this experience, all in one space. The experience ends.
And I'm trying to pour it into the bird cage.
Bunny is flop. Will you take my coat? The lights turn blue.
Tempers flare. It starts to chase us. We run.
We can't escape. The jaguar won't let us leave.
We're in Rio. We keep getting washed away with this craziness.
£50 pence! £100.
Llamas! Woo!
I'm stood under a lamppost in a residential area. A car pulls up in front of me tree. In the front of the car, there is a woman I don't recognize. In the back, there is a child I do recognize.
Wrong. £50. 3.99. £50. 3.99.
I'm running through a housing estate overgrown and aged. All the houses made of wood. Faded paint crumbles from the abandoned homes. I can't run fast enough. My tiny, furry legs won't take me any further. Behind the step, I nuzzle my whiskers into my mother's. We are scared. The marching gets louder, faster. The ground begins to shudder. There's nowhere to go. Black. I'm running. My ears flop as we pass round the corner. Another row of identical weathered buildings. No paths, just long neon grass.
Nice hot day. Sun's out.
Why is there nobody around? I'm stood with a woman. We're stood at the edge of a cliff. We are sharing a cigarette. While she animatedly tells me a story. We are in paradise.
Why is there nobody around?
We are in paradise. With neon green grass and clouds that move so slowly I'm not sure they're moving at all. I can't see behind me, but my hands, elbows, knees and feet are burning from the heat of hellfire. She's telling me another story. She's having another cigarette. I can't concentrate. The heat's too strong.
Witch hunters, body snatchers, firebrand priests, philosophers, all living on this side of a dead volcano. Why is there nobody around? I'm stood under a lamppost in a residential area. A car pulls up in front of me, next to a tree. In the front of the car, there is a woman I don't recognize. In the back, there is a child I do recognize. My parents, my family, we used to foster him. I approach the car, and the car window is rolled down. I'm stood wearing my coat. We make eye contact. The car window is rolled up. The car sets off. I'm stood under a lamppost.
I'm stood with a woman. 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 Hannah, I'm stood with a woman.
Hannah, Tony stood with a woman.
Stood with a woman.
Hannah.
Hannah, I'm stood with a woman.
Hannah, Tony stood with a woman.
Hannah, I'm stood with a woman.
Hannah, Tony stood
I'm
with a
stood
woman.
with a woman.
Hannah.
Hannah, I'm stood with a woman.
My tiny furry legs won't take me any further. We keep getting washed away with this craziness.
I'm stood, staring at crowds of people.
You only wear red and green.
Why are the crowds of people at this time?
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
It's the wrong 1 o'clock.
How would you know?
I am home. Grandma's house.
Smoke's coming out of the windows. Is that a fire?
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
The sun is hot, and there is a breeze.
Next to me sits an old acquaintance.
Why is the sun out?
We're in Rio.
I'm supposed to be starting work at 1 a.m.
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
I'm stood in front of crowds of people who only wear red and green.
Why are the crowds of people at this time? I'm supposed to be starting work at 1 a.m.
The floor begins to melt and we're melting with it.
Oh no! It's the wrong 1 o'clock.
How would you know?
Next to me stands an old acquaintance, and all of a sudden, she's stabbing me.
We keep getting tangled up in this craziness.
A car comes flying off the road and smashes the ground and starts spinning around until it comes to a halt.
I can't feel my tears.
I am home. Grandma's house.
It's the wrong 1 o'clock.
And the stairs are in 2 parts.
It starts to rain blood.
Dangerous driving.
They're covered in carpet, mucky green and rouge red.
It's 1 p.m.
Over the street, it starts to rain blood, and demonic writing spills from the church.
The sun is hot, and there is a breeze.
This house holds all my deepest, darkest secrets.
She cackles and flies off.
I've missed work. I might get sacked.
The fear every time she lifts her hand to pierce me again.
We keep getting tangled up in this craziness.
Oh no!
It still starts exploding, but his brain's coming out.
Dangerous driving!
I know she knows I'm dying.
We love her. Terrified.
I've missed work! I might get stabbed!
Don't worry.
Don't worry!
Don't worry.
A car comes flying off the road and smashes the ground and starts spinning around until it comes to a halt.
He breaks down like an old robot.
I've woken up.
The lights turn blue.